Hey everyone, my name is John English with John English Antique Sports and Cars in Shelbyville, Tennessee. Today, I would like to make a point about PSA grading. We have graded thousands and thousands of cards. As a matter of fact, my grading goes back to 2008 when it was close to 10 million. Now it is over 100 million at PSA. And I have to call a spade when I see one, especially in the card market. Now, everybody says buy the card, don't buy the grade. Well, PSA has changed their grading standards. And to the point of that, in my opinion, grades from 10 years ago are completely different than grades of today. So when they say buy the card, don't buy the grade, well, if you are a consumer and you are building a registry set, you want the grade. You don't want the card. It's just a numerical deal. Well, here's the problem that I see. With PSA changing their grading standards, it makes the registry basically obsolete. When they changed their grading standards, they should have changed or started a new registry. Because I, as a seller, sixes of today are eights of yesteryear. And I bought cards here, and we're going to show you here in just a little bit of what grades are compared to grades of today. And as you see behind me, we go through thousands and thousands and thousands of cards. So it's not like we're novices at sending cards to PSA. Now, of course, we miss cards just like everybody else. But when you are pulling the very best of vintage cards that 10 years ago were eights and nines and you're getting sixes, it's a problem. It's a problem for sellers. It's not a problem for consumers, but it's going to make registry sets very difficult anymore because nobody's going to send in high-grade commons. So anyway, to my point, what I'm going to do with these cards, we just sent in some 57 football cards and some 59 baseball cards. Now, these were almost untouched cards. They still had the residue on them. Now, we did get, in some of the 57 football, we did get some of the highest grades that there ever were. But the cards that they graded sixes are totally, I don't want to say ridiculous grades, but compared to yesteryear's last 10-year cards, they are so far above and beyond what those card grades are. So what we're going to do is we're going to show you these cards, and then I'm going to crack the old grades, and I'm going to send them back into PSA. And in my estimation, they will grade 2 grades lower than what they graded back in the day. And we will keep all of the paperwork. We will keep all of the headers for the cards. And then what I'm going to do after that, I'm going to crack my sixes and I'm going to send them to SGC. And I guarantee you some of them will get eights and nines. That's how good these cards are. So my beef with PSA is this. If you've changed your grading, which they in fact say they have changed their grading on their website, you needed to change the registry. If you're going to AI, now, I know that PSA has bought Genamint, and I know that that was an AI-driven grading company. I'm all for AI because it takes the human element and factor out. PSA can always fall back and say, well, you know, it's up to the grader, or it's this or it's that. I'm calling bull on that. I'm calling that's not working anymore. And so, again, I'm all for getting standard grading. And if it's AI that makes it standard grading and everybody's getting the same grades, I'm all for it. Anyway, let's take a look at these cards and we'll talk about each individual card.
All right, go.
Okay, so all of the cards on top are in the 100 millions. These are cards we just got back. And as you can see, they're mostly consecutive number system, so they were done basically at the same time. Now, all the cards on the bottom are cards that either have the same grades or better grades that I'm just going to call attention to. So let's just take Wally Moon, this 59 Moon. First of all, the color is really good. And this 6 down below, which was graded probably 15 years ago, way off center. We can talk about the backs too. All of these cards that we sent in, the backs are fairly good. Look how badly cut this is. So, in my opinion, when I send this back in, we're going to crack this, and we're going to send it. I'm going to keep this card, and we'll show it again. This card will grade 5 or 4. No, just we'll see. It'll be very interesting to me. Go to the next one. Same thing. This is an 8. And now you have a very off-center 8. This card will grade 6. When I say today's 6s are yesterday's 8, this 8 in this at this point in the grading scheme would have been a 9 or a 10 15 years ago. Now again, back's pretty good, clean, colors are good. Well, again, off-center a little bit, off-center a little bit. So we will do exactly the same with these cards. Now, mind you, as I said, we go through thousands and thousands and thousands of cards to grade. And so we understand what really mint cards look like. Now, this is a 5 that we sent in. I don't really understand the 5. Now, maybe I missed a crease, but I don't know. But it is a centered card. I mean, beautiful. Now, the back, and of course, these are high numbers. Now, again, we look at this Jerry Staley back here. That was an 8. That was an old grade. And about the same on the back right there. Well, again, you take this one this 5 is very centered. This 6 is way off center. And again, a number that is probably 15 plus years ago. And you look on the back, it's way off center. Again, we will crack that one. We will send it back in, and it will be very interesting to see what comes about it. Now, our 57 footballs, we can just go down the line. The 57, these were the best commons that I have seen in the last 15 years. They were never played with. They still had the gum residue on them. There is no gum stains. There is no creases. The color is really good. The centering, we picked out the very best centering. So, again, you have Droznovich here. Again, our top, very centered. An 8. You've got an 8 right here that it'll be a 6. You got Johnny, same thing. 7. This is an 8. Look how the color on this is very good. Where this is stained, the color is faded. They gave this an 8, and we got a 7 on ours. You go down to Henrik, or Don Heinrich. We got an 8, and here's an 8. Okay, these are comparable cards, but when you get, there's almost no border at the top. And on this one, there's a pretty good border. So we'll send this back in. And again, this will be a 6. There is no question in my mind. And I don't mean to keep beating a dead horse, but we can just go down the line and do exactly the same with every one of these cards. And you can look and see the difference yourself on how these cards, again, Bobby Watkins, really well centered, way off center on the earlier grade, which is probably 10 years ago. Back would have been fairly well centered, not bad. Back on this one, not hardly any centered at all. So it'll be very interesting when we send these cards back to PSA, and then we will get back with everyone once they come back in a month or two and give you an update on where we are. Seeing the cards, you all kind of have an understanding of why I might be a little frustrated. Again, sure, PSA has made the hobby what it is. Grading has made the hobby what it is. I fought grading for a long time, but I understand it, and we've got lots and lots of graded cards. But I also want you all to know that I am a loyal PSA sender in. I know there's been a lot of scuttlebutt, but we have hardly anything other than PSA graded cards. I've sent over 12,000 cards to PSA, and that's the only company that I've ever sent any cards to. So that's why I'm a little frustrated, especially when it comes to vintage. I'm a vintage guy, and when you get pristine vintage, it really sticks a needle in you. And this started about 2, maybe 3 years ago. I remember finding some 53 vending baseball in a guy's basement that still had the bins. They had no chips, they had no nothing. And we got mostly 6s. Now, again, we got a few 7s and a few 8s, but compared to what 53s graded several years ago, it's just like these. There's no comparison if you really are looking hard at each card. So the thing that I get back to is that the future of grading is probably AI. PSA has enough cards that they can make a pool of 1 through 10 of every card that's probably ever been printed. And I understand there are some cards there aren't any 10s. And I'm just talking about 52s and up. I'm not talking about anything. Well, 48s are still standard. Gaudies probably are standard. But when you get back into the tobacco cards, I understand all that. And we've sent them all in. So all I'm saying is that I don't know what PSA has done. I don't understand the changes that they've made, but they have made changes, and it is evident. And so what they need to do, in my opinion, and who am I to tell PSA anything because they're a multi-billion-dollar or million-dollar business, but for us collectors who support them, who actually send cards to them, they have to become consistent in what they've done. And if they're not consistent and they've changed their specs, they need to start a new registry. Because I, as a seller, don't think it's fair that I sell a pristine card for the price of a 6. So again, I get it. Grading changes, and when they started, they really had no idea. I get that. But PSA needs to get on board and understand that for someone that is sending them cards that has a shop and sends thousands of cards in, we are getting penalized for their change of grades. And it's just not fair to me. That's all. And that's what this video is about. And we're going to have fun with it. And we're going to send the old cards in. We're going to see what the grades are. And we'll get back to you.